What's going on, everybody? It's Aaron Duncan here, back again with another video brought to you by Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. And today we are talking about things that we can expect as the Panthers get ready to travel up to Indianapolis and take on the Colts and joint practices leading up to the preseason game this Sunday. Yes, week one of the preseason. We're just a few days away. But the good thing about joint practices, you get a little bit more of a controlled environment. I know everybody's looking forward to the preseason game because it's going to be on TV. But the joint practices from the team perspective and the coach's perspective, they get a controlled environment. They can get certain matchups that they want. They can put teams in certain scenarios that they want, especially against opponents that you don't often see because you never really see the Colts or any other team that's on the preseason schedule that the Panthers have in the regular season. You just don't see it because they're in different conferences too. So it would be a good time to get a test against this Colts team that, believe it or not, guys, they were a playoff team last year. And if the Panthers want to see and improve like we think they can and will be, this will be a good chance to see how we stack up. So we're going to talk about some things to watch in this week coming up in these two joint practices and the preseason. We're starting right now.
Yo, man, let's get it popping, man. Another day to be blessed to be out here, man. Hey, let's get it, man. Squad on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Like I said, this is Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Bluntness, where I do recap and analysis of the NFL, in particular the Carolina Panthers, through podcasts, live streams, and all kind of other stuff. So you guys make sure if you want to see more NFL content, and especially Panthers content, make sure you guys are subscribed and hit the bell icon. That way you get notification every time I drop a video, go live, or do anything else. And give the video a thumbs up too, because it really helps me out in the algorithm. Hey, real quick, down below in the comments, let me know what you're looking forward to the most and finding out about the Panthers through these joint practices in the first preseason game. Let me know down below. With a bunch of training camp practices in the books, a joint practice is just what the doctor ordered when it comes to Carolina because they've been going against each other. We've been seeing some progress from different positions, and it's a little bit different when you're going against guys in the same color jersey versus going against other team that doesn't know what you're doing, doesn't know your playbook like that, and they're not as familiar with you. So this will be a good measuring stick to see where Carolina is at. Like I said, they're a playoff team last year. I know they had some changes as far as the quarterback and things like that, but it'll be interesting to see how we measure up. But let's go ahead and get into the things that we can expect to look at. The first thing I'm going to be paying attention to, and it's going to be a little bit disappointing, but the Panthers D-line versus the Colts offensive line. Now, of course, we feel like our defensive line is the strength of our defense. With Derrick Brown, Brian Burns, Hassan Riddick, Morgan Fox, Daquan Jones, we have some heavy hitters, some pass rushers, some guys that can really get after it, a lot of nastiness up front. And to be honest, the Colts have the same thing. Obviously, we know the pedigree of Quentin Nelson and some of those other guys, but from what I'm reading from reports, they're all on the fringes. They're all hurt. Like according to Twitter, literally their whole starting 5 offensive line have been missing practice the past few days. We know about Quentin Nelson getting hurt with the foot surgery, obviously the same day that Carson Wentz got hurt, so we didn't expect him to be there, but it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't get to see a top-tier offensive line going against our defensive line because we really would get to find out how good we actually are because those dudes are nasty. Those dudes in Indianapolis are nasty, and I think we can match nasty with nasty and see where we stand up. We know we have some youth up front on the on the defensive line, but we won't get to really test our mettle against them like we did or we wanted to. But I think we can still get some good work just because, like I said, we're going against a new opponent that doesn't really know our skill set and aren't familiar with us overall. So it is a little bit disappointing, but it still will be a good test to see. On the other hand, we get to see our offensive line versus their defensive line. And our offensive line, we know we've been shuffling guys around up front. Obviously, Taylor Moton and Matt Paradise are the two mainstays, but our left tackle position is still kind of up in the air with some battles. And, of course, there's some things that can be done interior-wise with the guards, with rookie Deontay Brown and, obviously, Pat Elfin starting at left guard, and, of course, John Miller at right guard starting. But there's some things that we've been doing and playing around with. We're putting Taylor Moton at left tackle at times. You know what I'm saying? We've been Trent Scott at right tackle. We've been starting Trent Scott. Greg Little has gotten some burn at left tackle. And also Cameron Irving has been slated as a starting offensive lineman. He's had a beat-up shoulder, so he's been in a green jersey the past few practices, meaning he's progressing to get some playing time, but we don't know where he's at. So it'll be a good test to see what combination we roll out there and how they stack up. Because on the other side of the ball for the Colts defensive line, they have one of the best interior D linemen in the league in DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner is huge. He's 6'7", 295. 6'7", 295 playing on the inside. And this guy gets after the quarterback. We know this guy left the San Francisco 49ers and came over in a free agent deal just this past season in 2020. And he almost had double-digit sacks in his first season with them on the interior. so DeForest Buckner can get at it. They also picked up Kwity Paye out of Michigan, who's, according to their reports, has been very disruptive all camp for them, and he's going to be looking to make a big splash as a rookie. He was highly touted. So it'll be interesting to see how he does coming off the edges against our tackles with Taylor Moton and Cam Irving. But DeForest Buckner will be a real test on the inside for our guys, of course. So we will see what happens on the interior defensive line against our offensive line. So I'm really excited about that also. Another question mark for this Panthers defense that we kind of want to see how it's going to go is the youth in our secondary. And with some of the guys that the Colts have, we should be able to get some tests. I know that Carson Wentz will be out, so it won't be the same guy slinging the ball. But T.Y. Hilton is an established pro in this league. He has a lot of speed. He's very polished. He's a good route runner. And when healthy, he can be one of the most effective wide receivers in the league. So T.Y. Hilton will be able to give this secondary a test. You know what I'm saying? With that kind of speed, maybe he'll match up with Dante. We'll see what he can do. We'll see what Jaycee does when he gets a look against a vet wide receiver like that. But on the other side, they also have a big body wide receiver in Michael Pittman Jr. He obviously is only a second-year player, and he may not be as polished or a vet like, of course, T.Y. Hilton. But they give two different skill sets with T.Y. being a little bit shorter but having a lot of speed, and Michael Pittman being a bigger big body receiver that can give us a different look. We'll see how we match up with that size. Obviously, I expect Jaycee to be matched up with him because he's the taller, more physical wide receiver. But it'll give both our corners between Dante and Jaycee a test to see what they can do. It'll also give our young players like Keith Taylor, who is a big physical cornerback, a chance to maybe match up with Michael Pittman, another physical wide receiver, to see what kind of test instead they can do. And they'll test our secondary overall because Jeremy Chin, we know he'll be moving to the secondary for the first time this season, back to his natural position, of course, at safety that he played in college. So we'll see that what he does against another type of receiving core. And even though with the young quarterback, I want to see that our secondary can feast on these guys that they have, because like I said, Carson Wentz won't be there. There will be backup quarterbacks playing. So I would like to see our secondary take advantage and feast on these guys and maybe create some turnovers, make some plays, do their thing. Obviously, the live action and the game-like scenarios will be limited because these joint practices, like I said, are controlled environments by the coaches, but it will still be a good test overall. And my next thing to watch is just flipping the same thing around, of course. Our wide receivers. We know what we got in Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, 2,000-yard receivers from last year. They'll be going against a guy who had a bounce-back year last year in Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes was not brought back by the Vikings the year before, but he came back to the Colts, got to sign a deal there, and he really got back to his old ways of being, what they call him, Rhodes Clothes is what this nickname is, I guess. But Xavier Rhodes, he's a big physical cornerback that he can play some man coverage. We know he's what type of guy he's been. He's been a highly touted guy since he's been in the league. He had some down seasons, of course, with the Vikings, but he will be a good test for our guys because, like I said, he's physical. He's physical. Obviously, we have some other younger guys like Terrace Marshall Jr. and Shi Smith who'll be able to get some good work, and I'll be anxious to see how they match up when they go against those guys. Their secondary overall is pretty solid. They have Xavier Moore that plays in the nickel, so maybe he'll match up against Terrace if Terrace is in the slot, or Robbie or DJ if they're in the slot, and we'll get a good look at that also. So I'm really anxious to see how that lineup goes in one-on-ones and 7-on-7s and even team drills when we get some pressure in front of the quarterbacks. And so let's see how Sam Darnold's connection is with these guys when you have different opponents and different corners that you're not familiar with. And it'll be really good to see how those guys match up and how they compete. That's what we want to see, competition. That's what these joint practices are about, competition. Let's keep it clean and let's get some competition and good work in and push you guys to get better. Last but not least, my last thing to look forward to is the quarterback play on both sides. And I've already mentioned about the Carson Wentz being out and the young guys, and those young guys are Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger. You know what I'm saying? These are two pretty highly talented young guys that were highly talented in college, but they weren't very high draft picks. And even though they expect Carson Wentz to be ready for week one, they've been force-feeding a lot of these guys like Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger reps because they want to see who's going to be the number 2 quarterback. Maybe they'll bring in a vet eventually, but nothing right now. Nevertheless, we'll get a chance to see if the Panthers secondary and defense overall can feast on these guys, create some turnovers, and make their day pretty bad. You know what I'm saying? You won't get as good of a test as you would if you had a guy like Carson Wentz, a former MVP candidate, but you'll still be able to get some good work because of the good weapons that the Colts have on the outside, along with the talent that the potential talent that these young quarterbacks may have. I'm not going to sleep on these guys, but I do want to see our secondary take advantage of any opportunity they get because of these young quarterbacks they're facing. Flip it around for the Panthers. Sam Darnold. We know this camp is all eyes on him. All eyes on him. You know, there's a lot of controversy bringing him in, of course, and pretty much sticking with him over Justin Fields when the opportunity was there, and pretty much choosing him over Teddy Bridgewater when the opportunity was there. But Sam Darnold has been trending up the past few practices. He's been getting comfortable. That's been the word of the day for Matt Rhule on multiple occasions. Comfortable. 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 Now let's see how comfortable he is when you have a different opponent rushing at you, or a 6'7" interior D lineman that can get his hands up in your face and bat down balls and stuff if he can't get to you. Let's see how comfortable he is then. Let's see how comfortable he is against a defense that he hasn't been seeing for 10 to 12 practices in a row and getting too familiar with. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when you're going against yourself, when I mean yourself against your own teammates, you can understand what type of coverage and stuff they're trying to do to you, and they can give you a slight advantage. Granted, they will do some scouting and some controlled environments and different looks from the Colts so Sam Darnold can be tested, but we'll see how comfortable he looks because, like I said, the matchups on the outside are going to be key. The matchups up front are going to be key with our offensive line to really see what we have. So if they can do their jobs, it can help Sam be comfortable and continue to excel. Like I said, he's been on the upward trajectory the past few practices since the pads have gone on. He's been very crisp in the red zone. He's been very good finding Dan Arnold and some of our other receivers. Let's see if he can keep it going against another opponent, man. I'm really anxious to see how Sam's going to do. This will be a real test, and we'll see how much playing time he actually gets come Sunday during the preseason game. Are they going to treat him like a rookie and just give him extended playing time? Or are they going to treat him like a vet, give him only 2 series, and then wait till the next game to give him a little bit more and then play it from there? We'll see what happens, but I'll be anxious to see how Matt Rhule tries to structure things to really test Sam Darnold in this type of environment where we're traveling up to these joint practices against an opponent that's a a former playoff team last year, and we'll see how we match up. But like I said, you guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about everything. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date as I give updates about these joint practices coming up. I give these recap and analysis pretty regularly since we're cranking up for this season. So make sure you guys are subscribed and hitting the bell icon. That way you don't miss a thing. Without further ado, I'm Aaron Duncan signing off with the necessary bluntness. I'll see you next time. Peace.